Hey guys, welcome back to the Ramble. I am your humble mansplaining host, Moirology, and this is nothing that nothing is. Left foot, left foot, left foot, march, in a circle, continually, permanently, expanding, and moving towards nothing. The communal howl of the Western world is at this moment, and has been for years upon years, one of victimhood and of oppression. And then came all these wonderful words like diversity and inclusion and whatever else could fit in our noggins. These words, if one is to be perfectly honest, translates into no white dudes. Because in the Western world, you've got to understand, all white dudes are the oppressors, and so they are privileged from being the majority. Despite men in fact being a minority. Yet words no longer mean what they actually mean. Minority does not mean minority any more than majority actually means majority. Now it is all seen in the strange light of the new jargon, blasted into some peculiar new meaning from over-educated academics who dominate the discourse and, in so doing, trick the sleeping masses to believe in a new speak of the current year. Language, I have come to realize, is a plaything for the high and mighty academes, a BDSM slave tied up in their basement, there to do their bidding and for their amusement. Besides, all has become subjective, not objective. Objective fact is a conceptual social construct bogeyman manufactured in the evil scientist laboratory of white supremacist patriarchs of the Third Order. Or something to that effect. I'm not even joking. Stating otherwise is offensive. If you were to add the Freemasons to the mix, you'd get yourself a glorious conspiracy theory to rival all the other conspiracy theories. And I've mentioned this before, yet it will tolerate repetition. I prefer either the Illuminati or the reptilians to the grand patriarchal conspiracy theory of history. At the very least, the reptilian theory is entertaining. Besides, any thinking tinfoil hat wearer ought to prefer one of these to the patriarchy. The nebulous patriarchy is way too unbelievable to be true. Believing in the patriarchy theory is to believe that men as a group are so mischievous, so malevolent, so wicked and so lacking in basic human decency, that they willingly, knowingly and with malice aforethought have oppressed and victimized women through all of history. And how, one wonders, can one claim to not harbour any ill will towards men if one is to believe that men are at their root as evil as this? At the same time, it purports that women are so weak of will, so fragile and so incapable of any action in any direction as to put up with this for all of history. It does not paint a particularly nice picture of women or men, and I am so rude that I just so happen to have more faith in women in general than all that. Imagine that. I don't believe women are as weak as feminism presents women to be. For in order for feminism to thrive, women have to be seen as and consider themselves as weak, frail and incapable, eternally victimized and terrified. Not a pretty picture to paint, and then to present this as some manner of strength is, hell, I don't know, ridiculous. Yet, I am but a humble privileged white dude, and so my inherent privilege refuses me both the right and the ability to speak on certain topics. One can easily figure out what these forbidden topics are by observing which feminist fables or social justice fabrications are easily countered by the horrible and extremely oppressive patriarchal invention of actual goddamned facts. Or merely a simple yet effective counter-argument. Or just your average everyday rational observations. No uterus, no opinion is one such slogan meant to make the horrible men not have a single say on the topic of abortion, for example. Which is interesting, of course, as it takes two to tango. And that is to say, it takes two to get pregnant. And this don't matter none though, the contributions of the father to the pregnancy, to the birth and to the raising of a child is not important in the least. And this has been hammered into us for some 50 years. The nuclear family must be torn down. Sperm don't matter. The father don't matter. All pregnancies and all births are nothing but the sole product of the mother. I just read a feminist, of course, woman on Reddit claim that a child belongs to the mother. Emphasis must be put on the word belongs. She carries it, and so the child is entirely her possession, apparently. Yet the child is not her sole responsibility. The father must take responsibility, preferably in the form of child support. Even when he has no say in anything, and even when the child apparently is the sole possession of the mother. The child, after all, belongs to the mother. The financial responsibility belongs to the father. The way is not, as the gargantuan fraud and sham of feminism and gynocentrism will say, necessary in the raising of the child. Fathers are not important. All births are virgin births, all children a product of the holy communion between a woman and God the Father Mother. The woman, of course, being impregnated by the Holy Spirit through the right ear, left nostril, or some other unmentionable cavity. By that same logic, one would assume that women should not have a single say on the topic of male genital mutilation then, as they have no penis. Or on anything to do with men. A not insignificant number of women, especially in the USA, seem to have fetishized male genital mutilation. It just looks better, they'll say. The most absurd, and I would dare say perverse, things I have heard from women in regards to male genital mutilation is that the penis of their baby boy will look better for future partners, and that it must look like the penis of the father. I struggle to not shudder at this. But surely, I can't be the only one who finds this somewhat disturbing. I want the penis of my baby boy to look beautiful, otherwise no woman would put it in her. It must also resemble the penis of the father, and so it must be cut. Now, reverse the sexes, and see if the reaction remains the same from this rat-infested den that is the world. It really should not be that difficult to stop mutilating the genitals of babies. When it comes to baby boys, it apparently is remarkably difficult. Religious freedom and all that. This was the response I got from the government when I brought this up. Which does not cover the freedom of the baby from religion, or the religious freedom of those who wish to mutilate the genitals of their daughters. That is illegal, as it damn well should be, yet where is their religious freedom, if you want to use that piss-pot argument? But of course, the baby is the property of the mother, apparently, despite there being huge governmental systems put in place to save children from abusive parents, as there bloody well ought to be. Children are precious, and they should be protected from abuse. Except baby boys, of course. And so, which is it? If the child is the property of the mother, surely the mother should be allowed to do whatever she wants with it, right? Right. Fucking morons with their blindfolds and double speech. Yet, there is no use for moral, factual or medical arguments. The only thing one needs to say, if we all are to play by the same rules, is this. No foreskin, no opinion. You perverse filth. Still, feminism, women overall really, yet fueled by the frantic fire of feminism, see no qualms in telling men how our lives are, how we actually feel, why we do what we do and whatever else. Very interesting. Men can never understand what life is like for a woman, unless one transitions from male to female, but male to female trans people don't matter when they don't align, or when the turf wars are made manifest in the news or in society overall. Whatever. Nor can a man know what life is like for a man, apparently. Women of all stripes and from all walks of life are perfectly able to understand, to intuitively know what life is like for a man. Of course. They have all the right in the world to speak on behalf of men's lives, no matter how very obviously imagined, manufactured, or creepily insane. And of course, no matter what men say in opposition. When it comes to the lives of men, only women are allowed to speak about it. Or, well, only feminism and their pestilent potato army are allowed to speak about it. For there is but one God, and that God is a secular carpet-munching deity of feminism, which, one assumes, is the same God that keeps impregnating all these women with children who don't need no fathers except the wallet of a father, or whatever and whatnot. In the mass-manufactured madness of the current year, the victimhood Olympics are in full swing. The drooling insanity of the flaccid, blue-balled or blue-waffled mob is in control of the discourse. The reins have been handed over to the lunatics. Mass psychosis brought on by garden variety lullabies and pop psycho babble reign supreme. Everyone must be heard and must be seen as being oppressed, and their oppressors are, by and large, white men. Of course. All of them privileged, all of them oppressors, all of them wicked and evil and tricksy and false. And all of them counted as strong and resilient enough to deal with this barrage of hostility, ad hominem attacks and whatever else that not only attack them on a personal level, but also attack their very identity as men. As masculine, as doers, movers and shakers, if you will allow me some gendered generalizations of supreme offensiveness. The circumstances of our birth, the colour of our skin and the form and function of our genitalia are the only thing needed to be pointed out in order to shut us up. Check your white male privilege. Checkmate, you fiend. Now, take a knee. Kneel, I say. Kneel. Now, come over here and suck mama's cock. It seemed, when I first started noticing this goddamned guffaw, sometime in 2013 or thereabout, that it all just sprung up overnight. Which of course is not true. It has been coming for decades, and it has been gaining momentum. More and more and more. Choo choo, say the train of insanity and obscenity. Choo fucking goddamn mother-slapping choo. Over time, I came to the stark, grim and terrifying realization that this rhetoric, this guilt-inducing, shame-peddling, qualm-manufacturing nonsense did not pop out of some vacuum. Remembering my own days as a naive and hopeful, somewhat innocent and optimistic schoolboy, the rhetoric was there already, presented by teachers peddling bogus information and tall feminist tales, amongst other things, as though they were absolute fact. Opposition was not accepted, arguments to the contrary not answered, but huffed away with the trademarked sneer and scowl of a feminist scorned. The further into education I got, the worse it became. Art school was the worst, as one would expect. Who, in their right mind, would ever study art? Someone not in their right mind. That's who. And I've rambled about this before, and I won't bore you with it again. Suffice it to say that my ramblings on my experiences in school has been referred to as lies and bullshit, and let's leave it at that. Because of course it is. A man's experience is not his own. It belongs to the dragon dominating the discourse, the vapid venom-spewing serpent hiding behind the equality-peddling monotonous drool of their supreme ruler. Besides, it is way too horrifying to realize, to understand, and to accept what our society is doing to boys and young men. And so it must be denied instead. Any exposition and explanation of what has happened and what does happen must be dismissed. Above all, the holy sea cow of feminism must be protected from any criticism. Its faults and flaws, lies and bullshit be hidden from view. One would think that accusations of lies and bullshit ought to be replied to with an angry keyboard and loud, guttural growls. Yet I can't be bothered with it. Except for now, obviously. And I know it to be true, and I know their accusations to be untrue. And this goes for any accusation of misogyny, of racism, of fascism, of Nazism, of white supremacy, of this or of that. Whatever nonsensical label of shame is currently being used by the hordes of sneering and rampaging social justice fuckwits. Don't be bothered with it. If it ain't true, it ain't true. There's no point in defending oneself against such accusations. When the truth is that you ain't A, it does not matter how many times these cowardly receptacles of insufferable indoctrination will say that you are, in fact, A. The truth is what matters, I think. When the truth is the truth, the shaming tactics are lies. As long as you know the truth, accusations of allegiance to the unholy vermin of the day does not matter in the least. Do not give them the time of day, and, not least of all, never apologize to these people. They will use that apology as a stick to beat you with. For my part, arguing with random rancid reptilians on the internet won't amount to much except clog my sinuses and bring me internal bleeding from the stress of unwanted social interactions. Sometimes I wonder if I am an undiagnosed autist. Come to think of it, they burst the bubble of my safe space. I call sexual assault an overreacting, woman-spreading cunt-planing of the third degree. Of course, I understand the idea of referring to my experiences in school as lies and bullshit. That which is asserted without evidence can be dismissed without evidence. Yet, I struggle to understand what I would win, what I would gain by lying about something like that. I also struggle to understand how I am supposed to conjure up evidence from so many years ago. It's not as though I am winning any popularity contests by writing about what I write about. Quite the contrary, in fact. The truth of the matter is that the social punishments, if one wished to look at it like that, is far greater than any social rewards. Going against the established status quo is a lonely path, as these things go. Still, it is what it is. If people don't believe me, that is all fine and dandy. And if people believe me, hell, that's even more fine and dandy. Anyhow, that's more than enough about that. Fuck if I don't get a bit riled up about this, despite all I say to the contrary. Time to go pet my dogs and drink some more coffee. Caffeine is a nice substitute for painkillers. And so are dogs. To not notice the male bashing, the anti-male sentiments of the vapid void that is the Western world, is to be blinded. To not notice the cultural revolution, the Maoist refurbishing of society, out with the old and in with the new, tearing down statues, getting rid of or rewriting books based either on the sex and race of the author or some unpalatable in this world of woke sentence within, is to be blind and deaf. Don't know what it's like in other places, but the alteration of literature has begun over here. The father of Pippi Longstockings is no longer a king of the Negroes. He is now naught but a humble seafaring king. You don't bloody change art or culture just because it is not suitable for the current sensibilities. Shit. It's only a matter of time before people start bursting into museums, wielding paint and brush, painting clothes on the naked women present in the works of the old masters. So as not to offend. Unless the naked woman is a feminist statement, of course. And this blindness to the cultural hatred, the cultural shaming, is made manifest either by will or by indoctrination. And to not simultaneously notice the constant attacks on that terrifying concept of whiteness, whatever the rancid fuck that means, is to clog one's ears and pour bohemian bleach in one's eyes. Yet, it is all considered justified through some perversion. My whiteness is my racism, my maleness is misogynies. My oppressors are my racist, soggy-kneed white men. It is all my problematisms and it must all be potatoed out. It is all identity politics, it is all collectivism, and it is all nonsensical. I'm not buying it for a second, nor I think should anyone. Yet it is gobbled up with luster and with guts and with glory, rage running rampant in the radical sphere of young people's minds, here to rebel against what is perceived to be the establishment and the status quo, as is how things naturally go. In the line of fire, though, they never noticed that they are the establishment. Young people, the youth, are supposed to rebel. It is a natural part of growing up, such as I have understood it, a part of establishing independence. Independence filled with piss and vinegar, and loads of booze, and cigarettes. However, such as our societies are today, our adolescence have been lengthened so that people stay in a bubble of prolonged adolescence, never maturing and never really growing up, acting 16 at the age of 25 or beyond. And I would dare propose that an immature mind will seek social validation above all else, will consider the validation of their peers to be more important than truth, than reason, than functionality. And when the minds don't mature as they should, when adolescence is prolonged, out of some fear, I suppose, some terror about growing up and taking bloody responsibility or whatever, then we've got a problem. Then we've got an entire generation of me, who cannot stand disagreement, who cannot fathom that somewhere, someone is in disagreement with them, who seek nothing but validation, who do nothing but posture profoundly about their remarkably good moral character, their phenomenal altruism, their radical hatred of the pale and male and stale, which somehow does not contradict their kind and inclusive altruism. Their inclusion into the fold of all the other hateful and spiteful, vacuous and vapid lost souls of the world, who don't really understand that what they are seeking, what they are in fact lacking, is a greater purpose that is not found in social validation, but in knowing and coming to terms with oneself, warts and all. And that, I think, is that for this ramble. I hope you enjoyed it more than my previous ramblings. Should you wish to support the channel or the blog in any way, shape and form, please buy my books through the links below. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll catch you next time. This is Moreology here, signing off.